And I had this anxiety in my chest every night. Like I was blaming it on the business, blaming it on the AI, blaming it on my
Yeah.
team. But really, I was just far away from what I now know to be God. I came to this place where I was like, I literally don't care about money. All I want to do is use all my resources, all my time, all my energy, and all my soul and spirit to create art. History remembers the artist. And nobody knows how much money Da Vinci had. They just know what he created. I've just like found and realized like Bitcoin is like the way. It's just obvious, man. Like the more you look into it and you see who's talking
Yes.
about it and where the world has been and where we're
Yes.
going,
Yes.
it's just undeniable. Bitcoin is like basically the way, the truth, and the light, man.
Yes.
It's like,
Arlin Moore, what's up, man? Welcome.
Brian, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this convo. We had a lot of fun a couple weeks ago in Medellin, and yeah, I was watching your Bitcoin podcast, or one of them you did recently. You've been big on Bitcoin. I called you up and I was like, Brian, let's get on, let's jam, let's do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you did that because our stories are very similar of what's occurred in our lives over the last, year and a half, going on 2 years, I would say. And it's funny because we actually first met each other, I think it was like 2+ years ago when you actually signed up for our YouTube ads coaching program back then. And that was when you were running an amazing coaching program called Tribe, which you still have, and it's changed thousands of men's lives and connected them with taught them how to build a social circle, become a better man, become better at just social in general. And that's how we actually got connected. And then almost 2 years later, past that, like here we are talking about, you just got back from Medellin with me, and we hired you to do a full DJ set on the last night of our mastermind. So we have a lot to talk about. I really want you, really quickly though, for my audience who doesn't know you, if you wouldn't just mind introducing yourself and give them the too long didn't read summary, and then we'll dive into everything, obviously.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so let's see the elevator TLDR on who I am and the curves that brought us to this point. Well, I think first and foremost, I'm an artist. I mean, I grew up in an artist household. My mom's an abstract painter and art professor at college. She still teaches at a university in Massachusetts. My dad is a photographer and also artist. And I grew up with like art books all around the house, and most of my friends' parents growing up were like lawyers and doctors, and where they'd come to my house and they'd be like, dude, like if I feel like I'm in the 70s, like it's just very hippie nature kind of vibe growing up. So I think I got a lot of that DNA. But simultaneously, my grandfather was in real estate. He was a businessman. He was in an organization that you may have heard of, Brian. It's called YPO. It still
Oh,
exists.
yeah.
Yeah, so he was in that. And he passed in 2019, and he was very influential on me. Like because growing up, I kind of had this, my parents are artists, but they're not like super wealthy artists. So I
Yeah.
had this like mentality of like, I can't be a rich artist. I have to do this business side.
Hmm.
And so, I got to college. I went to Boston University. I was initially studying film because I was very good with the camera.
Yeah.
Transferred to the business school, watched The Social Network right away, first semester. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's when
Yeah.
I found Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, all the internet guys. And I was like, I want to live this life. And so I started on that journey, and I was trying to do SMMAs and, early, just very e-commerce and all this stuff, buying courses, learning everything I could. And what kicked everything off for me was starting a YouTube channel. So Boston University, 2016, I like to proclaim I was one of the early college YouTubers. And especially in Boston, nobody was doing this in Boston. It was very weird to walk around filming yourself. So I'm filming myself. I built a brand on YouTube, grow an audience. My first business was a clothing brand called 8 a.m., which is in the background here if you're watching. And then later on, I launched a product called Maxi, which is like a personal development mental reprogramming tool. And then after that, I launched Tribe, which was my first coaching program. And then that was like a big leap in income for me. And that, yeah, as you said, we had guys from all over the world who joined it. And that's when I ended up meeting you
Yeah.
and joining the admin coaching group and mastermind. And it was amazing. I mean, YouTube ads crushed. And then that was in 2022, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah,
after that, that's when you sort of been on this new wave, I would say, since.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So 2022, you and I met, and then I ran the program for another year and a half. End of 2023, I started to notice, like, it felt like, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs in your audience are feeling this now. It felt like the ground was starting to shake and
Mm,
just remove itself beneath me, with like GPT-4 coming out.
mm,
And then a very distinct moment I had that really like hit this is I had this short form editing team, and I was asking everyone on my team to come with like new softwares that were dropping weekly. And I saw Opus Clip and Opus Pro, and then I also saw like these AI agents that could replicate, me as a coach based on my transcripts. And I had coaches on my staff, and I was just looking around and like basically like one by one, I was like, all of these people on my team, I feel like I could replace them with AI right now.
mm,
And that was feeling weird. Simultaneously, spiritually, I felt way off.
mm.
And I had this anxiety in my chest every night. Like that was the main thing. I was blaming it on the business, blaming it on the AI, blaming it on my
Yeah.
team. But really, I was just far away from what I now know to be God. I was disconnected. I was just very, very lost and looking for truth and clarity. And I had read every major religious teaching, new from new age, more new age mystic religion stuff, Eckhart Tolle, to the Bible, to the Jewish faith, etc. And lo and behold, I pick up this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, which was Steve
Yeah.
Jobs' favorite book, George Harrison from the Beatles, his favorite book, a lot of very creative people's favorite book. And that book just connected all the dots. And I realized
Mm,
that all these religions, even the atheists, can be synchronized into this teaching. And in this way of this story that Yogananda tells. And just as a brief background on Yogananda, I know I said TLDR, but here we are with like this full
now keep going. This is
anecdote.
fire. Yeah.
Okay. So literally it gets to be fire. But but yeah, so Yogananda, he was a monk that is from India, and he came to the United States in the 1920s. And his mission that was given to him and passed down from his guru's guru was to come to the United States and teach Christianity as Jesus Christ would have taught it today.
Wow.
That was his mission. So not a lot of people really think about this, even Christians, but Jesus, when he was around, like he was in a time of Jewish occupation,
Mm,
right? So Roman occupation under Jewish law. So there were certain things that he was and wasn't allowed to say. That's why he had to speak in parable and symbolism and metaphor. And so Yogananda comes in the 1920s to the United States, and he had a talk in Boston, actually, when he first came here, called The Science of Religion.
mm.
And obviously centuries had passed since Jesus, and America is a Christian nation. And he's explaining the things that Jesus was talking about in this way that no one had really ever explained before. And you read this stuff and you're like, not only do you read it and it feels true, then you go and try these practices of meditation and prayer, as Yogananda instructs, and you just know that it works. You can, and anyone who disputes the teachings of Yogananda and his interpretation of Jesus, you could think of him as like a minister. He basically was a
Mm.
priest or a minister with a certain interpretation. But if you dispute it, all you simply have to do is just go into prayer and meditation and just talk to Jesus yourself. Pray, meditate, see if you don't like it, if you don't resonate with it, if it doesn't come to you as truth, then there's your answer. You don't have to
Yeah.
believe me. You don't have to believe the Indian monk guy. So anyway, I read this book, Around this time, we move into a new apartment, my girlfriend and I, in LA, in the Pacific Palisades, 2024, January. And I realized unknowingly within the first week I was there that we had moved next door to this place called Lake Shrine, which is Paramahansa Yogananda's founding headquarters in the United States. And he
Wow.
has these temples all around the world, and with like beautiful like gardens, and there's like a swan lake, and it's right off Sunset Boulevard. It's insane. Like you wouldn't, it doesn't even make any sense that it's like on Sunset Boulevard, which is like the same street that like Hyde and like One are on, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so you have this spiritual like sanctuary that I happened to move next door to. I start going there every single week and doing the practices. They have monks that live on the property
Hmm.
doing these meditations, and slowly that anxiety and pain that was in my chest just started to evaporate
Wow.
and just get filled with this like light joy and wholeness and certainty and clarity, and eventually creativity. And
Yeah.
that's when I started going full on into my like artist identity, and I made this album called the 8 a.m. album, which was really about this whole journey. You know, I'd had a lot of success from the business side and traveled the world, got the girl, got the watches, got the, you know, got the things externally.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that is impermanent. And I remember thinking too, you know, do I really want to be remembered for how many Ethereum tokens I had? You know, like do I care? Do I want to be remembered? Like, does anyone even
Not
care?
even Bitcoin, Ethereum.
Yeah, well, at the time as well, I think I was like into the memes and such. Like,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
I
yeah,
really does anyone care about how much, you know, money I make at all
yeah,
ever?
yeah.
And I thought about history, and I'm like, well, who do I respect from history? Da
Mm.
Vinci, Rembrandt, Einstein, you know, Thomas Jefferson, like the great thinkers and artists of all time. History remembers the artists, and
Mm.
nobody knows how much money Da Vinci had. They just know what he created. They
Yeah,
know him
true.
for his fruits, what he created. And so I was like, I have to. I came to this place where I was like, I literally don't care about money. All I
Mm.
want to do is use all my resources, all my time, all my energy, and all my soul and spirit to create art, you know, something that lives, that I can stand in front of and say, I created that, and that's good for the world. And so that led to the creation of the 8 a.m. album, which is kind of just the start of the story. I mean, I created it. The album cover was a photo taken off my balcony from the 4th of July. And there were fireworks in the sky. The sky is literally red. If you go on Spotify or Apple, you look up the 8 a.m. album by Arlin Moore, you'll see the album cover is red and it looks like it's on fire. It looks like the sky is like bursting in flames. And I did that because like there's this idea, there's like a theme throughout of like having, you know, like a burning fire for God. And
Mm.
also when you close your eyes, if you literally close your eyes and you lift your gaze upward to the center of, that's like the pineal gland, the third
Mm.
eye, the eye of the heart, like every Jews, Muslims, Christians, there is a significance of this, like this third eye. The Christmas tree is a star on the top, right? That
Yeah.
star is like an inner light, the light of consciousness. So all of this synchronizes. Anyway, if you actually close your eyes, it's kind of like red. You see this
Hmm.
like redness. So that like relates to the cover of the 8 a.m. album as well. The second song on the album is called Through the Fire. And then on January 7th, 2025, 4 months after I released the album, the Pacific Palisades where I was living burned to the ground
Wow.
completely in like a measure and scale of desolation that I couldn't even describe. Like it was so bad. And people saw the pictures and videos and they're like, oh my God. But like to experience that in person and drive through the
Mm.
neighborhood afterwards to go and pick up the remainders of, you know, our stuff, which luckily our place didn't burn down. We were one of the very few people that miraculously didn't burn. But like smoke damage, all that, you're driving through it, it looks like Hiroshima. Like it
Wow.
literally decimated everything. And that was just a weird prophetic, kind of coincidence, I guess. So yeah, so that brought us to earlier this year. We were kind of homeless, looking around and what to do, where to live, and I just kept, pursuing the mission. You hit me up. I think when you hit me up, I just had got back from Bali,
Yeah.
and you're like, come perform out in Colombia, and I was like super grateful, and it was such an amazing experience. And here we are to talk more about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you again for coming and making the trip. And I was so glad to have you because the reason I even reached out in the first place, going back to your story, was because I remember hearing that story. And I've always followed you since you were a client. And it's like, I've seen the evolution and I saw you go from, Tribe Accelerator, we were helping you scale it to then dialing back and then really realigning. And that's the key point, I think, in your story that most people maybe missed. And like, I want to go back to that because what you said is so key. And this is exactly why I reached out to you to come perform in Medellin, was because that's the exact same thing happened to me. Personally, last year we were, biggest team size, making the most money we ever had, record breaking months. And then internally, I just don't feel at peace whatsoever. I have the most stress I've ever had. My health is gone to shit because like my skin's breaking out with eczema because of mold toxicity. And I'm also stressed. My nervous system's fried. And it's like I'm doing well on the outside, but internally, I'm like almost about to die. And I don't know what's happening. And so for you, it sounds like that same thing sort of maybe hope, not to the extent maybe that I went through, thankfully, but it's like the chest pain that kept coming up for you. And so like let's dive into that because I think a lot of entrepreneurs our age, especially young men, like they believe the watches, they believe the money, they believe the business will kind of satisfy that hole that's already in them from being younger. Where, for example, for me, it's like I thought money would solve a lot of issues, and it did, obviously, like, got me out of scarcity. But I thought that was like I had to keep making more to feel fulfilled, right? And then I realized the more you make, the more problems you have, which is true, more money, more problems, but also the more things you have, the more things you have to worry about. And so, like you said about these material things, you realize it's a lot deeper than that. And I think a lot of people just keep pushing that down until eventually what happened to me was like I was literally like taking 20 pills, it looked like I was an old man about to die. And I'm just like, I'm 29. This is last year. I'm the healthiest person I know. Why is this happening to me? I felt like Job in the Bible. Like it was like I had all these skin issues and like God's like just I'm completely disconnected from God, basically, like you said earlier. And then it took me, what's funny is it took me hearing God's voice when I finally sat still and I heard this one phrase. He said, "Go back to nature." Like just go back to nature. And so I literally stopped doing everything I was doing in
What was
Arizona.
that? What was that? Can you go? Whenever I hear people talk about like God spoke to them or they
Yeah.
saw God, they saw Jesus or something, I want to know more details. We can't gloss over
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
I'm the exact same way. I'm like, how do you know he's speaking to you though? Right. This has been my biggest question for a long time. And I, I, it was, it wasn't like I heard a voice like outside of
Right.
me that says,
It was an intuitive, like shot to the dome.
yeah, it was like I was at wit's end. I did everything that people were telling me to do to solve this. I even sacrificed my values of like no prescription medication, like all the things that I would normally never do. Like I'm very natural, organic, like everything. And then it was just sitting there in my room one day, like literally staring at my laptop, kind of like I'm at right now. And I was just kind of finally at a point where I kind of just gave up. I was like, I've tried all my own. It's not working. And I was just reflecting in that moment, and it was just pure silence. And then in my mind, I hear the voice clear as day, go back to nature, like get back to nature. And then when I heard it, it just made sense. It was like you're trying to solve all these things externally, but you're not fixing what's happening internally. And so you need to get away and remove versus try to add. I was trying to add a bunch of things. I was trying to add more money to my business. I was trying to add more supplements to fix my health. I was trying to add all these external things. And then what actually happened was when I removed everything, I went back to Miami. I flew to my parents. I was just at the beach for 2 weeks every single day, 2 to 3 hours a day, just swimming, in nature, in sun, reading, disconnected from my laptop, and then my skin started healing. You know, my peace started coming back. And then that's when I realized I'm like, okay, you know, something's clearly off. And so it sounds like you and you went through that exact same thing.
Yeah, I think we went through the exact same spiritual cleansing. Probably like the timelines are probably eerily similar as well. And it is interesting. You had like the skin, the skin, like it was manifesting from the skin.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, mine was manifesting from just like this, just weird nebulous pain, and I like anxious pain. It felt like broken glass in my chest.
Oh, wow.
Like it was just like, imagine how like frustrating it is. You know, it's like this
Jeez. Yeah.
invisible like, you know, and
Ah,
yeah, I just was trying everything to get rid of it, and you're just like, what the like what is this thing?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I relate to that. Story of Job is spot on. Yeah, man.
And so that's what led you to the is that and that moment like and then how did you so did you just discover the book Autobiography of a Yogi after that or like
Autobiography of a Yogi.
Yogi?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he. I had read it in college. Uh,
Okay.
but you know, I mean, how like how things go. You read you read things once and then you revisit them later, and you have a whole different kind of view because you just have more context. Like
Yeah.
at the time I initially read it, I got it and it made sense, but
Yeah.
not within the context of the, you know, I had done so much more of a deep dive. All 2023, I like really integrated myself into the Bible, and I was speaking with Christians, a lot of my Christian friends who are, I would say, born again Christian, who were traditionalist Christian, who are like wholeheartedly committed to the, you know, belief system of like, if you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you will go to heaven. If you
Mhm.
don't, you will burn in hell for eternity. So I spoke to them for great lengths. I spoke to a lot of Muslims and I spoke to a lot of Jews. And even in Jerusalem, like I was in Jerusalem on a Shabbat and went to Shabbat in Jerusalem with like the Jews from the Bible, basically, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I really integrated, and coming back to Autobiography of Yogi and having that context makes you just, you're able to see the whole battlefield. Just
Mm.
go, oh, okay, I can see what everyone is saying, why these people disagree with these people, and what they might be missing. And yeah, man, the greatest part about Yogananda's whole philosophy is it's just verifiable. You don't have
Mm.
to, you actually don't really have to have faith. Like you can just try out the prayers and meditation style and like see what happens.
Mm.
And if it
Yeah.
works, it's gonna work. And if you don't do it, then you won't even have tried it. So yeah, it's I don't remember where I initially saw the book, but it's like powerful, man. I mean, it's
Yeah. And that was really what basically helped you overcome that glass feeling of in your chest, right? Just being able to just sit and find the peace within you, find the kingdom of heaven within you, right? That's really
yes,
what allowed
yes,
you. And the best part about that is similar to me. It's like until I was able to kind of remove a bunch of things, go back to silence and like not distracted with these worldly things, we were both able to find peace. And then that's what allowed you to find the creativity, I'm assuming, to then realize I'm an artist. I want to create. I haven't been creating. I've been chasing something else that maybe isn't really aligned with me. And then boom, now produces what's behind you, 8 a.m. World, you know, and the 8 a.m. album, which is exactly what obviously you performed for us in Medellin, which is a beautiful
yes,
album, by the way.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's it's, I don't know, it's miraculous. Like the whole thing, and you and I having the synchronicity is just like, it's hard to believe. It's
Yeah.
very, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's so many people listening to this that had almost an exact similar pattern. I'd be curious. People should comment below their stories. I look forward to reading, you know, the story of Job that everybody else is experiencing.
Yeah, well, I've. This is why I wanted you to again. This is why I paid you to come to Medellin and perform because I not only did I want you there, number one, but I also believed it was the perfect divine timing because of your story, my story, And then the whole purpose of Medellin and that mastermind was to bring people together, to disconnect, be in nature, not so much business, but just community and collaboration, and to realign with like the true purpose. And so your album was the perfect celebration, sort of ritual, if you will, to, send us off into the next quarter and the next year of our life here in 2026 soon. And I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to. And it's crazy because when I was going through all this, I always thought I just couldn't talk about it. I'm pretty sure I'm probably similar to you, probably because you have the ego is telling you, no, you're this person, you have this status, people perceive you to be this person, you have to show up as that. And if you are vulnerable and talk about what you're actually going through, you're gonna lose all this stuff, right? And that's what happened to me. And so I didn't talk about it for so long. Like you see me now, I'm in a tank top and I'm like happy to wear a tank top. But before I was wearing long sleeve, button down collared shirts because my skin just looked horrendous. Like I just couldn't wear anything but long sleeves in the middle of Arizona too. And you cannot believe how many people I've talked to over the last, or have DM'd me, I should say, right? Because it's a very sensitive topic, but they're going through the same thing, man. There's a shift happening in the industry, I believe, and we talked about this in Medellin, where people are realizing the things that they were believing would make them happy actually don't, and
Yeah.
they're actually searching for God, but they don't even know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the pain, whether it's a skin condition or glass in your chest or like some sort of manifestation of that in your life that's super annoying that you keep
Yeah.
trying to fix externally, is basically it's God's call back to source. It's like
Yes.
you can try everything else, but until you humble yourself at the footsteps of the kingdom of heaven, you're just going to keep drowning. And that's what I found. And um, that's the only solution.
And so how for you did it feel when you were like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of this successful business, right? Making all this money and making good amount of money, and then also going full time into creating this album. I mean, that was probably number one, not easy, probably super scary. And even though you were sure it was what God was calling you to do, it probably just wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, I'm assuming, right? Like there was probably a lot of still sleepless nights and wondering, dude, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah, completely. I mean, this gets into like the whole, I call it my surrender experiment. There's another really great book I was reading this time called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, and I felt very in alignment to that narrative, that story. Um, the TLDR of that story is this guy Michael Singer went on this kind of huge spiritual quest to find truth, find God in the 70s, basically. And he ends up realizing there's this voice in your head that's always complaining, always asking you to do certain things, always wanting to look cool and have status. And he decided just to stop listening to that and instead to follow the deeper voice, the voice of intuition, the voice of God, which leads you a different way. And it
Mm,
often contradicts that small little egoic voice.
mm,
And so what ends up happening with him is he ends up building the Medical Manager Corporation, which had a $1 billion exit and later merged with WebMD. And so he became a billionaire, even though he was like this yogi, monk meditator guy who like wasn't trying to manifest anything. He just let go. And so I was like, I'm just going to let go. And
yeah.
I'm going to try that and see what happens. And yeah, it was very scary. I mean, first of all, like firing my whole team,
Mm,
shutting down the businesses, and then just having a blank slate every day. Starting off with meditation and these techniques I was learning, which were like a huge anchor, and then just following intuition. And at that
mm,
time, it was just make music and started off with one song. I thought it was only going to be 30 days. Like I gave myself this 30-day window. I'm going to make a song for 30 days, see how that goes. Made it. I got addicted to the whole process. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to make an album, but I'm going to give myself 2 months now. And then 2 months turned into 3 months and 8 months eventually later of just no income. And also, I was living in a $20,000 a month apartment
Yeah,
because
yeah,
when I moved in, I was making, $150,000 a month. But I
yeah,
shut that all down,
yeah,
and I just wanted full focus on meditate. And so I had my savings, but I'm just looking every month, like 20K a month apartment, also in like one of the most expensive zip codes in the world.
yeah.
And eating out nice dinners
Yeah,
still.
you're shopping at Erewhon as well, like good quality
Exactly.
food and everything. Yeah,
Yeah. Because, well, I looked at it as, I knew it was like financially crazy,
yeah.
from a traditional standpoint. However, and I don't recommend this. I think maybe after you hear me say this, you should go back and watch Brian's podcast with what's his name, Rajan.
Rajat, yeah,
Yeah,
Rajat.
maybe go. That's a little more responsible. Well, I'm more responsible now. We
Yeah.
can get to that, but at this time, I was just like, and you know what's so fascinating, Brian? I had felt like a lot of the money that I had earned, because I was making the money for status games, I almost felt like it wasn't mine. Like it
Wow.
wasn't truly meant to be mine, right?
Interesting.
Like it felt like, because initially I was like, I want to make money, and then I bought this watch, and I'm living at this. I felt like it had to burn. It's like money earned in a, it's karma, it's like money earned in like, and I don't want to speak for anyone who does like OnlyFans management or OnlyFans or whatever, but like the money earned in like a not so clean way,
Yeah.
I think eventually you lose it, or you
Yep.
you suffer some consequence some other way. And so in
Yeah.
my way, I was like, Tribe did a lot of good for a lot of people. However, I felt that my motivation in creating it initially was like to get external things. So I'm living in this apartment, and I was like, well, karmically, it makes sense. I keep in mind, this apartment I was living in, it's an ocean view. I put
Mm.
my desk right smack in the center of the living room that overlooked the Pacific Ocean, and it looked like a Pinterest board photo. Like, I don't know if you remember my post of this, but the
Yeah,
place was
yeah.
like,
I saw it. It was beautiful.
dude. And so I was spending all this money, but I literally looked at it as like studio time for my art. Like I was obviously living there, but like every day I'd wake up and I had this view and I had my desk, and I could like
Yeah.
channel these like vibrations from this energy flow. And I'm also next to this ashram. And so like the whole, even though it was so expensive and crazy, and I'm just ripping into my savings, and I could have been spending all of that on Bitcoin, right? Like
Yeah.
uh it made it just karmically, I think it just had to happen. Like I literally had to burn the savings down to create the 8 a.m. album. And that is like now the bedrock of like my actual like foundation of my wealth long term. And
There's so
like,
many. Oh, keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
well, I mean, just going into like now,
Yeah.
for example, you paid me, we can talk about our Bitcoin
Yeah.
experience there. Like you paid me for the Medellin experience, whether it was Bitcoin or cash, like completely different way that I view that money.
Yeah.
It's like that money that you paid me is not going to get spent on
Yeah.
dumb shit. Like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like accumulating, and because you did pay me in Bitcoin, that's probably long term,
Yes. Yes.
several $100,000
Yes. Yeah.
for that moment in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like leaving status games
Mm.
to play long term games uh, is really like the way. And it's hard to do unless you're connected to God, and unless you fully, wholeheartedly believe in what you're building and what you're doing. And I see so many young guys, especially, who are crushing it, like on TikTok and stuff.
Hmm.
Won't name names, but I'm sure people, it's easy to see, like, who are flexing the new cars and the new clothes and everything. And it's like, yo, like all that stuff is so dumb. And like you get like a little bit of, oh, that's cool. But like compared to a really amazing clothing collection I might design, or a really amazing, an 8 a.m. album or 8 a.m. album number two, like that's the flex. The
Yeah.
thing that I created, like this, I'm wearing it just because like I bought it at the time still, but like this is not, who gives a fuck about this thing?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Like it's incomparable. Um, anyway, Anyway, I mean, dude, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you about you selling your watch for Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a lot of points in there we can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through.
Dude, this podcast is probably going to go a lot longer
Mm-hmm.
than I. It's actually going to go exactly as long as it should because there's a lot of things we can discuss and a lot of value we can provide. Because you touched on a couple things there. Number one, you said the way I was making money before maybe wasn't in alignment with God, and therefore I think it had to be karmically basically evaporated in a way through the fire. Your second song on your album, Through the Fire, the Palisades Fire, like there's a lot of synchronicities and sort of similarities to those concepts in general, which makes the whole experience and story so much better. And then also, if you look at what the Bible says as well, which again, shout out to you because you're the one that actually your story and you sharing it publicly, which is why a lot of people shouldn't be afraid to share this because other people are going through this. Your story is what allowed me to be inspired to start reading the Bible when I was going through it, and really sitting down and reading it for myself of what Jesus was saying, right? Not what other people say he said, not what religions say he said. What is he saying? I want to read it word for word. And in the Bible, it literally says, again, it's like, you know, the parable of the rich fool, right? The rich fool has a bunch of grain stored up and he realizes he has excess grain. Jesus is telling this parable to the people because there's a guy that says, Jesus, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me. And then Jesus is like, man, who made me arbiter between you and your brother, right? Be wary of greed. He tells the story of the rich fool. The rich fool has a bunch of grain stored up. He has excess grain, overflowing grain. So he says, I don't know what to do with it. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna tear down my barn, rebuild it bigger, store it there, and then spend the rest of my life eating, drinking, and being happy. And then and then Jesus says, God says, you fool. Your life will be taken from you today, and then who will you leave that excess stuff to? Basically saying, you know, the an abundant life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Be rich toward God. And so one of my former business coaches, Vince Del Monte, who I started working with again recently, he was telling me there's some money, dude, that you just shouldn't accept. Like just because it's like people tell you in this industry, especially, like you got to collect as much money as possible from all the leads. Like, you know, like you got to collect as much money as possible from all the leads. You can't let the leads slip through the cracks. And that's something that in the marketing world is like very preached and people believe it. I got to have this offer and that offer. I got to sell these people. But man, like at the cost of your soul. So, like you, for example, your intention with building Tribe probably started off very pure, just like me as well. Like adspin.com started off in servitude. But then what happens is you start building it for yourself and your status instead of towards being rich toward God. And then maybe like what you said is just like you realize that and then it's misaligned and deep down you know it, but you're not facing it. And so you keep justifying it like I was justifying it. And then eventually it just comes up and you can't push it down anymore. But some people do, man. And yeah, when you were talking about that this entire time, I was just like, this is the perfect parable for what happens.
Mm.
And you have to realign with what your purpose is. And like you said, for me, you experienced it, but like it's this mastermind, man, the admin mastermind. Like, why? Because masterminds changed my life. You know, it was just being in a room with other like-minded individuals like you, creating an experience and having fun and talking about these exact things that we're talking about right here. That's where the big breakthroughs come. So it's so funny because I would tell people all I want to do is masterminds, and people would say, well, you got to have a front end coaching offer, or you got to have this, you got to have that. But it's like you were in Medellin. I'll do that the rest of my life and I'll figure it out. I'll make that work because I know that the impact that people have when they go, especially meeting someone like you there too, it's priceless. So yeah. So now let's talk about actually how you came to Medellin. So for those of you who don't know, I tried paying Arlin twice. So when we agreed, when you know we said okay, let's do it, and then I tried wiring you the money. I mean, and you remember this. I wired it to you, or so I thought, and then I got a text from you like a week or so later. I think it was maybe 7 to 10 days later, and and you're like, hey man, just to let you know, I don't think the wire ever came through. And like me being someone who's like holy crap, like this makes me look bad, right? But I definitely sent you the money. I don't want you to feel like I'm like, didn't send it yet. So I was like, what the heck? I log on to Chase. I see that the wire was like reversed like the next day or something. And so I'm like, what the heck? And then I sent you the info, and then I'm like, we both discovered, oh, maybe it's the address that's off. I put an extra word in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. And then so I said, okay, that's the correction. Let me change that. Let me wire it again. So I wired it again. And then sure enough, next week, I think I wired it on like a Friday the second time. So there was the weekend. So wires obviously just they don't go through until like the next Monday or Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, you text me, or I checked actually with you. I said, hey, just to confirm, did the wire come through? And you're like, no, actually, it hasn't. And I was like, dude, what the heck? And so I log back onto Chase and I check, and sure enough, the wire was reversed again, like a day later or 2 days later. And I'm just like, and I remember the first time I joked with you, I said, I think I said like I should just pay you in Bitcoin or something. And then we're like, well, the wire is easier maybe. And then the second time I was like, dude, let me just pay you in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you're like, I would actually
Yeah.
prefer that, by the way. I was like, perfect. So you sent me your address for Bitcoin. I sent the Bitcoin, and within an hour, you got the wire. There was like a 16-cent transaction fee. The wires cost me $110 because I sent two of them. It cost $30 each. And then there's a wire reversal fee that Chase charges you on top of it. So in total, I got charged an extra $110 just to send you the money, and you didn't even get the money. But with Bitcoin, it got to you in an hour with 16 cents in fees. And again, like you said, that Bitcoin, will accumulate way more over time. And so I'm just so like more bullish on Bitcoin for that exact reason.
Dude, it's such a good use case. It's like, and I've been really loving that you've been talking about Bitcoin. It's motivated me to want to talk about it because I'm wouldn't I'm not Rajat. I'm not Robert Breedlove, and I'm not Michael
Yeah.
Saylor. But like, I feel like we should talk about it.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I've put in my 1,000 hours of research into it, and
Yes.
I have an understanding, and even like these little anecdotes, I think can help the mission move forward further. Like part of the problem with like the traditional banking system and wires that is so obviously annoying is that you can't send them on weekends.
Yes.
Or like if you send it on a Friday, it waits set for some reason, banks doesn't work,
Yeah.
technology shuts down. I don't know, like Saturday, Sunday, and then like Monday, okay. And then I check it later and it's just reverse, and then you're getting these fees, and I'm like, well, I don't know why it didn't send.
Yeah.
Chase doesn't know why it didn't send. And we're like, all right, well, maybe it's this word. It's
Yeah.
just like all these like little things add up, and then you know bitcoin bitcoin is like basically the way, the truth, and the light, man.
Yes.
It's like
And there's a
it's
spiritual
perfect.
component too, because like it took
Totally
15 days.
spiritual, bro.
It took 15 days for me to never get the money to you with the wire, by the way. It took an hour for me to send you the Bitcoin, and you got it. There's no middleman. It's me to you, peer to peer, right? It's we're in control of it. It's our in our possession. And on top of that, again, I'm not Michael Saylor, like you said. We're not Robert Breedlove. We're not Rajat. Like we're not trying to be those guys either. We're just entrepreneurs and artists and creatives that want to create things and just find a way to add value to the marketplace and get
Freely.
paid to do it, right?
Yeah.
But the best part about Bitcoin on for me as well is like I've also went down this rabbit hole recently with this whole digital ID thing.
Mm.
And dude, tell me this doesn't sound true, right? Okay, so we're the government, the UK especially, they're trying to push for this digital ID. Obviously, there's protests, everyone's fighting back against it, thankfully. But the mark of the beast in the Bible, right? Some people say that's Neuralink. Some people say that was COVID. I thought, well, I never, got the shot personally, but to each his own. Whoever did, you did it. That's fine. But I did it. I just didn't believe it. It was against my values at that time, and I just didn't want to do that. But let's say this digital ID thing again becomes another COVID thing, right? Well, okay. So they're basically saying they're going to track the way me and you transact with everything, right? And so that's exactly what, if you read in the Bible, is sort of the mark of the beast, basically to a T. And then when you look at Bitcoin, like I literally have a topic I want to talk about as a YouTube video, which is Bitcoin is God's money.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at what Bitcoin represents, it's freedom from the government, it's freedom from control, And it allows me to send you money directly without the government being involved, which is why they want to consistently shut it down. But they can't. It just keeps growing, like block after block, minute after minute, year after year. And I really believe it is one of the best tools for us to avoid a digital ID and potentially the mark of the beast.
Mm, I totally agree, man. I would love to, and I'd be curious your backstory as well, but I think it might be helpful to the audience just hear my story on how I came to the truth of Bitcoin.
Yes, please. Because
Um,
I don't even know. I don't even know how.
yeah, sure. So I first heard about it in 2017. I think it was maybe, yeah, the first time it was ever brought to light. I was in college. I was ripping YouTube videos and like going to college parties, filming and posting on YouTube. And the guys who were in like the business school at that time, I had by this time transferred back into film school, so I was like far removed from the business people then. Um, but I was on the club hockey team, and I remember guys talking about this Bitcoin thing, and I just completely didn't pay attention to it at all.
Yeah.
Um, they would try to explain it. No one really knew what it was even, and it just wasn't. I was like, dude, I'm ripping views on YouTube. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to know about this. So then 2020, no, it was yeah, it was 2020 was the Elon tweet, right? And
Hmm.
52K.
Yeah.
So I remember that. This is around the time I first came across my now good buddy Colin Yurkison, who I'm sure you know.
Hmm.
Um, and he was like just talking about how he was putting all his paychecks into Bitcoin, and like he became a Bitcoin millionaire in like overnight. And I was like, wow, that's
Hmm.
kind of crazy. Um, and I remember hearing that, and I was like, okay, maybe I should like look into this because, I'm an early adopter of things, and I just want to learn more. So I started researching it almost instantaneously, and it's just so crazy how it all is so tied to my spiritual journey. Almost instantaneously, I was like, Bitcoin is fucking boring. I am gonna go to the real stuff, and I'm gonna go to Cardano, Polygon, and Solana. These
Yeah.
are the real, these like Bitcoin is old news. That's old
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
technology. Cardano, Charles Hoskinson, this guy is a fucking genius.
Yeah.
And he's like Ethereum, this Vitalik guy's weirdo. Like, and I just
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
I was watching all these like these, I don't even want to call them meme coin influencers, because that phase happened even later. They were just like crypto influencers that were obviously, and I didn't realize this at the time, they were obviously being paid by projects
Yeah.
to promote coins. And I'm just like getting so deep in this rabbit hole. Keep in mind, timeline wise, we've already passed the peak of the bull run, but I didn't even know what a cycle was yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, heading into 2021. I was also at this time, I got a house in the Hollywood Hills, and I was living this like high life. Like I had a I had a blackout Mercedes Sprinter van out front of this mansion in the hills. I was first tasting my online course money, and I was just spending it all every single month on my Sprinter van, on parties, on this house rental. I had just gotten out of a relationship too. I was just in this like, dude, I was like not in a good thing, but it was
Yeah.
fun. I'm not gonna lie, I had fun, but
Yeah.
like it was not a good. It was a very like fly by night like uh LA fuckboy mode basically,
Yeah.
and like I'm just like Cardano is the truth. Like it was just so obvious that I was so misled,
Yeah.
from top to bottom. If I look back at my version of myself now, and I
Yeah.
see, this is why I see on TikTok like some of these young guys who are making a ton of money with like trading and courses now. I'm like, and they're flexing. I'm like, dude, like I was you, and I know what you're doing,
Hmm.
and I see how misled this is. Um, and yeah, I was just clearly lost. And so it got to a point where I leave that house, actually basically got kicked out of the house by the landlord because I threw too many parties. And yeah, and it's like now we're like gearing toward end of, is this 20? Yeah, this is, man, I'm trying to think about the timeline. This must be 2021. Yeah, it's 2021. So I leave the house, and then yes, and then I'm moving into a new apartment in Boston because I was like, all right, I just like spent a shit ton of money. I got to get my shit together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had a bunch of savings still left up. I dumped it all into Solana, Cardano, Polkadot. Polkadot? Is that what it
Yeah,
was?
yeah, yeah.
Gavin Wood, Polkadot.
And you said this is after
Um,
the bull run.
well, we're in late 22. This is like the tail end, but I
Okay,
still didn't
okay,
know what a
okay.
cycle was.
Okay, okay.
And I also didn't know what a hard wallet was.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I've got
Just on the
all this,
exchanges, yeah.
dude. Yeah, I'm just catching tail end of the bull run, like slight, like maybe 20-30% rises. And like my money was growing at the time. And yeah, I had like multiple six figures in a Celsius
Oh
crypto
no.
exchange account.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm in Boston. I get this new apartment. I'm just sitting there. And then I start buying NFTs. And like, dude, it's just getting worse and worse. I'm like buying all these.
That was Alex Becker. Alex Becker was the one that got you in NFTs, I bet. He's the one that was preaching
I
it for
was
like a
watching
year.
Alex Becker for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was watching his stuff. I was like, dude, well, Alex helped. The thing was too, and I I don't want to talk shit about Becker because he's amazing. And he also, the thing was, I was watching Becker in 2016,
Yeah.
and he helped me a lot with like
Mm-hmm.
business.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, he's telling me about meme coins, not meme. I didn't even call them meme coins then. He was telling me about the new technology of the future narrative, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the smartest thing I can do. I'm gonna become a multi millionaire from Solana and from Cardano and Charles Hoskinson, and so and these NFTs. And I
Yeah.
was buying the dumbest NFTs. So then Celsius goes bankrupt,
Yeah.
and all my money goes to zero.
Jeez, dude.
The assets get literally seized, and they just the whole company goes bankrupt, and I lose all my money,
That's crazy.
all of it. And of course, like what happened first was it was like Celsius is experiencing issues. And for those that don't know, Celsius was an exchange that you could earn like crazy yield.
Yeah.
You could earn like 20% on
And
your.
that should have been the red flag immediately. Because when I heard it, I was like, there has to be some catch somewhere.
I know, and I just was so naive and stupid,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
I was clearly lost. Like I was living in the hills and like just doing all this fuckboy stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna earn 20% yield, but like then you get this message just like you can no longer withdraw your funds,
The worst.
and I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, okay, well, surely at some point I'll be able to withdraw my funds. I can't just take my money. But that's when I found out what a bear market is,
Mm.
because the markets have this 4-year cycles, and it started going down, and I'm just looking at it every day and I can't touch it.
Mm.
Savings they just sort of went up like this, and then they're just going down, down, down,
Yeah.
down, down. And I was just like, oh my God. And I couldn't touch it, but it had gone from like several $100,000 to maybe $7,000, like nothing. And
Yeah.
that is when I was in Boston. I was like, this was when I actually started building the real version of Tribe, like the latest
Mm.
iteration. There was like an early iteration, but this is like the one that was like the final. And I started watching Michael Saylor reading Bitcoin Billionaires about the Winklevoss twins
Yes.
and their
That was
whole
the first
narrative.
book I read as well.
Dude, that book is amazing. I think
Yeah.
anybody who is new to Bitcoin should read that book first because it brings you into the story and the history.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's so incredibly entertaining. Elevator pitch on that, guys. The Winklevoss twins had the OG idea for Facebook that Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg stole. And this story is about what they did after they missed out on Facebook. And basically, they became Bitcoin billionaires. They found out about it in like 2009.
In
And
Ibiza, by the way, which is
in Ibiza.
read the reason why you should read the book in the first place because it's such a fun story.
It's so fun to read. It's so easy. Like Audible is great. Same author as who wrote The Social Network. And yeah, so like I'm just researching and watching Robert Breedlove and reading the Bitcoin white paper and trying to understand it. And it was really one podcast for me made like clicked, and it was Robert Breedlove on Tom Bilyeu's impact theory, and
Mm,
he just explained the five principles of Bitcoin, which are divisibility, like the five principles of Bitcoin that make it perfect money.
yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar
Yeah,
with.
it's fungible, it's divisible, it's transferable, it's non-confiscatable. It's then there's one more that I'm forgetting right now
Scarce.
as well. Yeah, scarce,
Scarce.
exactly. Scarce. The truly first digital scarce asset we've ever had.
Yes. Yes. And then I'm getting into the history of money and, reading books like just on the history of where money came from. And I read the Jekyll Island story.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was just like, oh my God. And around this time as well, I had my first, um, this was like the first time I felt like God was starting to kind of come through me a bit. And I just started like, I went to a couple weddings, actually Quasi. I went to Quasi's wedding.
Nice.
And I went to another friend's wedding that I met in college who was like a traditional Christian. I saw these weddings, and I think that those, like, as spiritual moments, really opened me up and connected me. And that was like, again, spiritually speaking, like I got opened up to Bitcoin. I also prayed to meet my life partner and like my future wife. And a week later, I met Chloe.
Wow.
And then I started dollar cost averaging Bitcoin. All of this
Yes.
happening simultaneously. And I got a hard wallet.
Yes, thankfully.
so the whole thing, like, it's just so crazy how it all, and I think the craziest part is like, it's not like I've been perfect. Like, I at some point sold a ton of Bitcoin,
Hmm.
and I also got re-involved in like memes, and like you fall, like you where none of us are perfect. Like we go up and up and up, and we're on this truth line, and then the
Yeah.
shiny object comes, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
you get back, and you get, but more and more, I've just like found and realized like Bitcoin is like the way, and
Hmm.
it's just obvious, man. Like the more you look into it and you see who's talking
Yes.
about it, and where the world has been and where we're
Yes.
going,
Yes.
it's just undeniable.
Yeah, it's literally so funny enough with me as well. I first heard about it like you saw in the Rajat podcast like in 20 like college, like this was like 2012, 2013. Like my one of my fraternity brothers actually at Arizona State University was mining it. And I
Oh,
just
wow. How's he
didn't.
doing?
Yeah, well, so I can't even contact him at this point. So I don't know. Like it's like he's that level probably, right? But like he also kind of went down the wrong path as well. And because like what happened was he was mining Bitcoin. At the time, I didn't care about it at all. Obviously, I was in college. I didn't have any money. Like it was just worried about drinking, partying, and like, enjoying myself, Arizona State, right? And then during 2018 is when like Bitcoin starts going 30K, 40K, right? Like I text him and I say, hey, like, what should I put my money in? I have some money now. It was like 3K. And he's like, XRP, XRP. He's like, dude, XRP is the future. The banks, the government, they're gonna start using XRP.
Dude, oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
I
so so
never
I
fell down the XRP rabbit hole, which is funny.
no,
It's
no, you
funny we
didn't?
had these like analogous things, but like it's so fun. I was like, dude, Cardano, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cardano, bro.
But I didn't even study it at all. I just blindly trusted him because he was the guy that was mining Bitcoin. So I just said, I don't trust that yet. I don't know what it is, but I know I can make money somehow if I just listen to someone who knows what they're doing. Here, I just sent him 3K. We bought it at 30 cents. It went to $3. I
Oh
never
wow.
sold, and then it went down. So I went from 3K and then to 30K on paper. I'm like, holy crap, I just made 27K. And of course, I never sold, so I didn't make anything. I went back down even worse than what it was before. So I didn't make any money, and then I stopped with crypto. I started focusing on just like making money in the business, and that's when I actually started my business full time. And then so I was just only focused on the business, and then I actually started reading the Bitcoin Billionaires book because I heard Robert Kiyosaki talk about Bitcoin.
Yep.
Because I was like, how I learned, I have a bunch of books of Robert Kiyosaki,
Dude,
Rich
I,
Dad
I had
Poor
a phone
Dad.
call with Robert Kiyosaki once. I'll have to tell you that story after.
No way. Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Funny enough, I actually saw him at my gym one time in Scottsdale, like Lifetime Fitness. But he probably doesn't go there anymore. So don't try to creep on him if someone's watching this. But but yeah, so he was talking about Bitcoin, and I was like, why is Robert Kiyosaki talking about Bitcoin? Because he's this real estate guy. And so I
Mm,
started listening to his podcast, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. So I read the book Bitcoin Billionaires, I read the book Digital Gold, and then I was just like, okay, this let me start dollar cost averaging in it. And like you, dude, I made the mistakes as well. I bought in, I think Bitcoin was at like 20K or around there. And then I sold like when it got to like almost 50. And I
mm.
thought, okay, I'm smart. I took profits, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what I didn't realize was I didn't realize what I actually owned and what I had, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sold it. So then I bought back in with the same money at an even higher price. And I was like an idiot. And then long story short, at the end of last year when I was going through all the things and I took those 2 weeks off and I was like, I need to go back to the source, go back to nature. That's when I actually had time to sit and think and where the world's going. Like you saw Opus Clips, you saw these AI tools. I saw the same thing. And I also had one of my friends that I met at a mastermind, which is why I love masterminds, because he said, hey, man, you should look into Bitcoin. And like this was at a mastermind, and I wasn't even focused on Bitcoin. I was just like focused on my business. But like that stuck with me. And then I just kept hearing him in my head, and that conversation kept coming back to me. My intuition kept bringing it back. And so I was like, I've heard about Bitcoin in 2012. I heard about Bitcoin in 2018. I heard about Bitcoin in 20. Like I bought it, but why did I stop it? I was like, oh, my business. I started focusing on the business only. And then I was like, where the world's going with AI, what's actually going to be truly scarce in a world of abundance with information and technology and tools? Oh, Bitcoin makes even more sense now. And so then I went from like, I went like, obviously now I'm like all in basically. And so, yeah, that if it didn't, if everything didn't happen to me last year, I wouldn't have ever been able to come back to the source.
Dude, how did you get to the point where you sold your watch for Bitcoin?
Okay, great question. I sold it, I think it was almost now 3 months ago, 4 months ago. But again, the end of last year, my whole thesis of my business changed. So, and my entire like philosophy of what I'm going to be working on. So again, I just got realigned with what my purpose was. So I said, okay, my business before for the last few years was just status and accumulation of more. It
Yeah.
was just more for the sake of more. But it's not about revenue, it's about profit, right? Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. And more importantly, it's not about like a million a month. It's about like what I want, right? And what I wanted was I wanted peace, profit, and purpose. That's what I wrote down on my whiteboard at the end of last year. Peace, profit, and purpose. And so, long story short, my entire business model changed of okay, what do I actually need to hit my goals financially? And then where am I going to store that excess profit? Because it's one thing to make a bunch of money in your business, but a lot of entrepreneurs, like and we've experienced this ourselves as well in our stories, we make a bunch of money, but it's hard to keep it, right? We don't know where to keep it or how to invest it in. People tell you real estate, people tell you, stocks and bonds, the S&P 500, all these things. Those never resonated with me. I never felt
Mhm.
called to invest in those things. And they never really made sense to me, even though I knew like people would tell me that are smarter than me to do it. It just never made sense. So then when I rediscovered Bitcoin again, when my friend told me, hey, you should look into Bitcoin at that mastermind, and it clicked for me finally. It made sense. I went all in. I put my 1,000 hours in again. I binged watched Rajat's YouTube channel every day, every YouTube channel I could, every podcast I listened to. So I just got so much. I just kept getting more and more convicted where this just made sense. Like I'm convicted to the point where everything that I don't truly value that I have that's still like consuming mental energy for me isn't worth it because it's distracting me from the truth and the peace. And so with the watch was a trophy for me. The backstory behind the watch, so for those of you who don't know, it was a Rolex all gold day date presidential 40 millimeter watch. And I bought it for myself from a client of mine who actually helped me hit a milestone, which was making seven figures in my agency in 2021. So the last month of the year, he became a client of our agency, and he actually happened to be a luxury watch dealer.
Mm,
And so I had that on my phone screen for 2 years, the watch. Like it was a Rolex ad back in like the 70s when print magazine ads were like super big. And because it was an ad and it was a Rolex, it was the president's watch, advertising, admin, ad spend, all those things had correlation. And he was a
mm,
client. And so I had him buy the watch for me. And It was more of a trophy kind of status piece, you know, Rolex. People would give me compliments. And then I had my daughter actually this year, and I just started reevaluating everything. I'm like, okay, this watch no longer really serves me. It's just kind of like it's actually more of a mental energy drain because whenever I go out and wear it, I'm always worried about bumping it, you know, always worried
Yeah,
about scratching it, always worried about
yeah,
maybe having someone steal it. You know, it's like someone trying to jump me for it. And so, you know, not that I'm like so worried about it, but it's just another thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I was always telling myself, hey, I'm just gonna leave this watch for my future son one day and pass it down generation to generation, right?
yeah,
But then I realized I'm like, well, do they even want this shiny gold rock? Like, are they even going to even care about that? And do I even want them to care about it? Sure, it's a cool artifact, but what if I took that same, you know, 50K, or in this case, when I sold it, it was only 35K. What if I took that same 35,000, put it into Bitcoin, and gave them $35,000 worth of Bitcoin? You know, what would that do for my
yeah,
family in the future?
yeah. Or like, well,
So it's like
yeah,
that 0.28 of a Bitcoin, right? And look, and you watched Rajat's podcast. He did the math. Like you can see, you know, just timing wise, who knows when it's going to happen, but what that 0.28 of a Bitcoin is going to be worth. But more importantly, it was just the values were realigned. And so I got to the point where I looked around and I said, okay, you know, what do I not need that I can sell? And I just basically, and also how do I start accumulating as much as possible, you know, not for the sake of like trying to just accumulate, but it's also because there's an opportunity here. There's an
yeah,
opportunity and there's a finite window. And you see guys like Michael Saylor, you know, buying $640,000, 640,000 Bitcoin. So there's clearly never going to be enough for the average person. And if we're on top of it now, like me and you are, well, we're going to be able to have an abundance soon, plus be able to do what we love to do, not because we have to, but because we want to. So that was really why I sold
yeah,
it.
yeah. The conviction is interesting because, like, obviously, I still have mine. And this is, you know, this is market. I don't know, $60,000 watch. Right now, I think it's a bit less. Watch market is all down and such. I go. I really like it.
Half a
It's like,
Bitcoin, bro.
what's that?
Half a Bitcoin on your wrist.
I know, dude. It's like it's it's I don't know, man. I like it, and part of me
Hey,
is
you
like
don't
I
have to
do.
sell it. That's the cool part. You don't have to. You can keep it. You know, like
Yeah, yeah. I know, but I kind
life's
of
not
was.
all about Bitcoin either.
Of course, of course. I mean, I like it, and like this thing's beautiful, man. Like it really is. Like it's a
Oh
piece
yeah,
of
that's a
art,
that's a work of art.
and it's not focusing, but
And
like
that's who you are too. You love art. So it's like that
yeah,
isn't a
yeah,
regular watch that you can just make in 20 minutes. It takes craftsmanship.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true. It like, and it is true. You know, watches are art for sure. Um, but at the same time, you know, that half a Bitcoin 10 years from now,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, do I want what's that going to be 10 years from now? What did Rajat
Yes.
say? What did he say?
Well,
I'm
dude,
scared.
half a Bitcoin in 10 years from now, probably going to be worth like close to a million plus
Yeah. So it's like, do I want a
minimum.
million dollars in 10 years, or do I want like this sentimental piece, you know, to give to my future son to be like, hey, this is what I wore when I was, you know, I don't know. I think I should maybe spend some more time on that.
Yeah, I spent the time going through that rabbit hole and I just realized it for me personally, it wasn't serving me. And it wasn't something that I thought actually my kids might actually want. It was more of like, I want them to have this for me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. I think that's actually, you have to go through the rap because like I haven't really done that. You know, it's more like, oh well, I'm gonna give this to my son someday. Like it's just
Yeah.
like a thing that guys say. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
but I have a few watches, so I don't know. I'll have to really. This one in particular was like the dumb purchase. I think.
There's a guy named Wealth Squad Chris on Twitter. You probably might have seen him before, but he sold like stuff that you wouldn't believe that like people would sell for more Bitcoin. He sold his like basically entire watch collection, watches like that, Rolexes, and he always documents this on Twitter with transactions of like how much he bought in for. And he'll buy it like now, even
What's
though
his
like
name?
it's It's Wealth Squad Chris. I'll text you it as well.
Is he on Twitter or YouTube or both?
Twitter, and he has
Twitter.
YouTube
Okay.
too. There's a video on YouTube he has. I recommend everyone watches it. He sold his Mercedes AMG. It's like the typical Mercedes car that everyone buys for like tax purposes.
Yeah.
The Mercedes AMG like truck. What is it called? The Mercedes. I don't
The
know what
G
it's
Wagon.
called. Yeah, the G Wagon. Sorry, he sold his G Wagon for like 200 something or like some 200 like 200 grand, and he immediately put it all in the Bitcoin. Like even at the top, people were saying, but it's the conviction he has because he knows again the opportunities in front of us. No matter what the price is today, it's not about today. It's about the price 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because. The real reality that I learned, Arlen, is, and everybody, if you go down the rabbit hole, you will learn the more you learn about Bitcoin, the more you realize you don't have enough Bitcoin because there's so much abundance of dollars, and there will only continue to be an abundance of dollars in circulation that the number of Bitcoin you have will be further and further more scarce, which means that your future generations, will be able to have more purchasing power than most people because they have something that is truly scarce versus everyone else who's just saving, even in stocks and bonds and real estate and all these other things. So for me, it was like, okay, that 35 grand, that point two eight of a Bitcoin, it was easy because I'm like, that's going to be, the average price of a house right now is 3.4 Bitcoin, like a medium sized house, 3.4 Bitcoin. It was 664 Bitcoin 5 years ago. Now, in the next five
Crazy.
years, it's going to be 0.28, 0.3 Bitcoin. That's like, so think about that. You have maybe two houses on your wrist right now that you could buy in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, it's so crazy, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to text you his profile. Check it
Yeah,
out.
text it to me. I'd like to also make a note, and we can keep going on this because it's so fun, of just like the conversational energy when we start talking about Bitcoin. Like it just gets
Yes.
light and fun. We're laughing. We're like, oh my God, you bought XRP instead of it just you feel the frequency of it. It's like a full on, yeah, man, it's spiritual currency. It
Yeah.
totally is. And
Yeah.
I think the more spiritually clean you get, the more you can recognize spiritually clean things.
Mm.
Bitcoin is one of those. It's yeah, I got to a point where I just realized like I spend, I probably spend $100 a day just on food and life and just whatever, like on my personal living things, business aside, right?
Yeah.
Just like without even thinking. So I was like, I'm just gonna turn on just daily buy Bitcoin. So
Yes.
now I had that before, but now it's different. It's like I buy Bitcoin every day, no matter what, forever.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
just something I do. And that to me, I think my number one piece of advice to someone is read it who hasn't heard about Bitcoin is read Bitcoin Billionaires,
Yes.
watch the Tim Bilyeu Impact Theory podcast from 4 years ago with Robert Breedlove. Maybe watch a few others, but specifically the one from 4 years ago, he breaks it down so cleanly. Listen to some Michael Saylor, watch Brian and Rajat's podcast they did
Yeah.
recently. Look at 40 minutes in. It's 40 minutes in your podcast. He brings up the charts. You guys start
Yes.
going ham on Bitcoin. And then once you do that, take our word for it and just open a Gemini account, open a Swan Bitcoin account, and turn on dollar cost averaging. Just whatever you can buy that you don't think about every day.
Mhm.
If it's a
Yeah.
dollar a day, that's great. If it's $5, $10, $100, whatever it is, just turn it on, start buying Bitcoin so you don't even think about it. Let it accumulate in the background. Every month or so, transfer it to a hard wallet.
Yes.
My recommendation for a hard wallet, because this is a whole other rabbit hole, is the Blockstream Jade
Yeah.
hard wallet. That's the one I use. I used to use a Ledger, but Ledger's like not to be trusted. Actually, I have my Ledger
Yes.
right here. I do not use
Yeah.
this thing anymore.
Yeah.
Blockstream, the Jade wallet is 100% Bitcoin. The code is all open source, and yeah, it's. I think it's the most trusted wallet.
Yeah, Blockstream Jade, cold. There's a cold card as well, and then yeah, and you can do the Trezor only Bitcoin wallet, but Blockstream Jade seems to be probably top tier for most people, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. So Man, I don't know. Is there
Just get
anything
off
else with
zero.
Bitcoin?
You have to get off zero because again, the simple answer is here's the reason why, right? Again, you can read all these books and they'll tell you the same thing. But when you realize that what you believe money is actually isn't, then you realize that you've been basically accumulating something that they can be printed into manipulation for infinity. And you don't really have anything that's actually valuable until you actually buy something that's truly scarce. And when you learn that Bitcoin is actually truly 21 million, there will never be any more. It's coded into the system
Mm-hmm.
cryptographically and it's proven publicly and transparently so you can't game it, you
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh, okay, cool. And then not only dollar cost average, I would say too, like that's the first step, but then pay someone like Arlin for some service. Send Bitcoin, right? I
Mm,
think this, people will say this is controversial too, but I believe in using it as what it is, which is money. Not
mm,
everybody will right now because we're in this still like accumulation stage, store of value stage. People want to obviously have as much as possible, and I agree we should. But like when you actually send Bitcoin, when I sent Bitcoin to Arlen, it was a spiritual thing. He got it in an hour. You see the magic for what it is. It is magic internet money, and he got the value. We were transacting on a good and service, and it was beautiful. Like it created beauty and art in every way possible. And when you actually use Bitcoin, that's when it clicks for you. That's when it clicked for me. It was just like, oh, this is how money should be. Like
mm-hmm.
it's yeah.
What made it click for you? I think we touched on it a little bit, but I think it's really, really valuable. There was an insight you mentioned where you bought it and then you sold some, and
Yeah.
then because you started getting it,
Yeah.
and then I was the same thing. It was like I was dollar cost averaging $100 a day in
Yeah.
2021. And then I had a bunch. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll just sell it. I made 4x. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
why not? I'll buy it when it goes down again or something. And
Yeah.
it's just not what you're supposed to do. So like,
Yeah.
why do you think that?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think I still, well, number one, I still had trauma from the XRP scandal, right?
Yeah.
Like I never sold at the top, and so I never made any money, and so I didn't want to relive that same thing. But I didn't want to relive that same thing, thinking and believing that Bitcoin was that same thing. So I didn't truly actually understand Bitcoin to the level I thought I did. Because
Mm,
again, had I known what Bitcoin actually is, I would have never sold it. But the problem is, I didn't put in the 1,000 hours. I put in maybe 100 hours, if that. I put in Bitcoin Billionaires. I put in Digital Gold. I put in a couple podcasts from Robert Kiyosaki daily for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I started buying some. And then, a month or two later, it goes to their 50K. And then I sell it right away because I still didn't truly put the hours in to really understand. Like honestly, it was just an ego thing. It was like, okay, I made money, I'm gonna sell it and it's gonna take profit, but I didn't delay the gratification. And so that was just because I didn't understand what I was actually buying still. And then when you actually, I literally remember that like at the end of last year, I was just putting hours after hours every single day of podcast after podcast and book and book and book like for 6 months straight and it was just okay, I'm fully convicted because there's no other possible solution out there. All the other stuff is fake, all the other stuff is meme coins, all the other stuff is just not true. If someone's leading you to anything but God, Bitcoin, and community and collaborations, like they're misleading you. Like that was my whole thing.
mm, mm,
So yeah, I just didn't understand it, I believe. I thought I did, but I didn't. And plus also, I still was only focused on scaling the business. So it really wasn't like still like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm gonna make some money here. But like my main vehicle, my main ROI is adspend.com.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think as soon as well as you start pricing things in Bitcoin instead of US dollars, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think you have to kind of continuously watch Rajat content, listen to some Bitcoin stuff like at least a couple times a month, just to remind yourself that what the real thing that has real value here is. And
yeah.
in the back of my mind, I have this kind of graph of just like the value of the US dollar, just like and the amount of US dollars in circulation, just like, okay, so this thing is always decreasing in value. There's always more being made, and it's going down in value, and everything in that currency is increasing in price.
Yes.
So Bitcoin doesn't increase. So that means Bitcoin always goes up.
Yes.
Okay, boom. And you just have that in the back of your mind, and you're like, okay, solid, got it.
Yeah.
Remember that. Remember that. Don't sell for 3x profit.
Yeah. Because what are you
That's
gonna
like
like?
that's
Yeah.
the message of Bitcoin. Don't sell for 3 to 5x profit.
Yeah. Like, what are you selling? Like, it's not even profit. You're buying a worser form of money. You're buying back into the cheaper dollar that can be printed. It's like there is no profit in that. Eventually, maybe short term. And then, like you said, when you start pricing things in Bitcoin, like for example, my wife's dad, right? Like, and he'll admit this too. Like, I finally got him in the last 2 months to sell all his Ethereum. Like, he didn't have a bunch, but like he had like 3K worth of Ethereum. He had, some Solana, like you said, some Cardano. He had these things. And why? Most people invest in those things, especially today, because they see the price of Bitcoin. It's 100 and, whatever it is today, 107, 108K. And they're like, oh, I missed the boat, right? I can't buy a Bitcoin. Or it's just, I'm going to get rich in these other things. I'm going to invest in these other coins that are cheaper. And so they buy these other things, not really understanding them either. But then, like him, I told him, I was like, dude, it doesn't matter that it's only 3K in Bitcoin. You have 3K worth of Bitcoin or whatever he has in Bitcoin denomination, but that Bitcoin is going to be far more valuable than the dollars that you bought it for in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. As long as you keep continuing to stack, you will be able to buy more in the future. You will have more purchasing power. But most people can't understand that because they haven't first got off zero. They haven't first looked at how to use Bitcoin for themselves and in their lives. And they actually don't know, like what you just said. Most people don't know, Arlen, that the government printed like 85% of the dollars in circulation in 2020 during COVID. Like they don't know that, right? So they can't fathom that, oh, well, why don't I just, like, the thing I always like to say is, why don't you ask yourself a very simple question like I ask myself, is the price of things today for you and your expenses cheaper today or more expensive than it was last year? Probably more expensive. Your pasture raised eggs, your organic fruits and
Your
meats,
rent,
your rent.
everything.
Yeah. The
Dude, you know
perf
what the biggest indicator for me was more recently was we had our it was actually specifically, it was $18,000 a month, our apartment,
yeah.
pre-Palisades fire, right? Now, because the apartment building didn't burn down, but everything around it did.
Yeah.
Now it's like 25K a month to get that same unit in a burned down city.
Yeah, it got worse.
Yeah, it got 7K more a month expensive.
And,
Like,
and the neighborhood, the apartment is actually in a worse
worse.
quality condition.
Yes. If
Yeah.
that doesn't scream inflation, like, and a problem with like the financial system and real estate, like, dude, it's just screaming at us.
And that's my whole argument with people that are saying still about real estate too, because it's like, dude, it's inflated because the currency's inflated. So yeah, on paper, real estate continues to go up, but it's because they're valuing it in this paper money that's not real. And there's a better store of value, and it's Bitcoin, obviously, because you don't have to deal with all these things. But yeah, it's the same thing. My friend who lives in Barcelona, he pays his rent in euros. And because the dollar continues to go down in euros, his rent is increasing, but the quality of his apartment isn't getting better. His landlord just needs to have him pay more because the dollar continues to go down.
Yeah, the landlord's got to make money.
Yes. Yeah. So,
They're
yeah,
getting
man.
squeezed. They're getting squeezed. What
Well, look,
else? What
dude.
else? We got a lot. I mean, there's so much we can go into.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about your surrender experiment, the journey you've been on, the artist you now have evolved. Oh, dude, let's talk about what's coming. Let's talk about what we believe is happening soon and what we're going to be doing soon. So, obviously, the Metagene Mastermind. By the way, if you haven't watched that mastermind vlog on my channel, go watch it. I posted it probably 2 days ago. If you're watching this, watch the set that Arlen did. Watch the vlog, watch the set at the end that Arlen did and the entire experience, and then go to Arlen's channel and watch the full 2 hour sets. You can just, in the background while you're doing something, maybe working out, cooking or something, just feel the vibes and the energy that's there. Cause like the set was amazing. The experience was amazing. Go to his channel, subscribe to it and watch that. And then I would also say, look into what Arlen's doing next year because him and I are going to probably do a collab soon as well with 8 a.m. World and Admin Mastermind, which has to happen. But he's actually, why don't you talk about what you're doing next year? So talk about Bali and the project you're doing at the end of next year, basically this same time next year.
Yeah. Yes, it's pretty much exactly. We will be mid swing of the event, the experience that I'm running next year, this time in Uluwatu, Bali. So where to start here? I mean, I think it just going into the story of like after the fires, right? After the fires, I actually took, as part of my surrender experiment, a really interesting consulting opportunity came across my plate where I got offered this consulting opportunity at a company, fintech company in New York City that's raised $300 million in the banking space, banking and credit space. And I was actually a member who was in Tribe Accelerator, and he brought me in to help with basically integrating a lot of like internet marketing hustle and culture and ideas into the traditional, YC backed startup space. So I start helping out at this company. I was there for about 2.5 months. And long story short, 2.5 months into that journey, I started to get super antsy with like this kind of corporate structure and I was getting paid. I was basically working a job. It's supposed to be a consulting job, but I was the highest paid person at the company, and I was I was like in New York. We didn't have our apartment anymore, so I was living in New York, going to this office. I was getting very antsy, and things were bureaucratic and moving at a pace that I wasn't used to. Because like as internet cowboys, we can do whatever we want. We don't have investors to answer to. We don't have a board. We can just boom. We got an idea. We're gonna run with it. Team of 5, team of 10, whatever it is. But team of 60 and a board of investors, you can't do that really.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that structure was weighing on me creatively. And I was still working on music, still working on the 8 a.m. brand in the background, but all of a sudden I was in New York and I started getting these visions of this like kind of utopian society way of living where you have all this nature and these monks and the freshest, most organic food you can imagine. And I was just getting these insights. And then I went into Midjourney and I started creating this sort of world with Midjourney and just making these visions that were in my head in real life. I put the images in Midjourney into Runway, which is an image to video software, and made this 2-minute trailer, which you can watch it at 8amapp.com/Uluwatu. You scroll down the page. And I made this this vision of this like way of living. I didn't even know what it was really. Like it was just this, you wake up in this nature sort of villa, like it's just warm, and you go out and you have some fresh fruit, and then you meditate with the monks. And then you're surrounded by all these other creative people like Brian, like, there's people working on like futuristic creative things, technology, art, any sort of business. It you could be a developer, you might be in sales, like whatever your art form is, you're surrounded by all these people in this community, this tribal kind of community. You all meditate with the monks. The monks align you to this like creative frequency. And then you just start going on this like creative rampage, collaborating. Maybe you're in deep mode in one area of the collection of houses and villas that everybody's in. And everyone's just working for like the first 3-4 hours of the day. Have some organic coffee, eat some food, work out in like this gym that's also kind of like immersed in nature.
Yeah.
And go back into the creative zone after that. Another like 3-4 hours of creation. Then another meal time, like 7-8 p.m. meal. And then a deep work session at night and a quick meditation before bed. And you just do that every single day. That was like the vision. And then on the final day of this vision, there's like a music festival. So that was the vision that I had. And I didn't know what it was. So I'm working at this company. Long story short, I'm getting antsy. I communicate with the CEO, who was a friend of mine. He was in Tribe. And I was like, hey, man, like, I think we should basically part ways. And I start trying to create this vision. We throw our first experience event in Austin, Texas. It was just a day, and we rented out this like sort of spiritual center, brought in a bunch of decorations from Amazon, and we made the whole space as much close to the Mid-Journey vision as possible.
Wow.
And we started onboarding members into this community, which I call 8 a.m. World. I played a set. We had sushi, like fresh organic sushi, and drinks and smoothies available, and conversation, and everyone kind of like sort of trying to create this thing in a night experience.
Yeah.
We did another one in New York, and then we did another one in Bali. And the crazy part of the story happens when in Bali, we were there for 6 weeks. And this was around the time you had messaged me. We're there for 6 weeks, and one of my friends invited me out to his new land that he just purchased in Bali. And I'm looking at this piece of land, and there's a staircase, like it's this, it must have been like 100-year-old staircase, just covered in moss and such on his property that he bought. And I'm looking at it, and then I compare it to my vision that I had made with Mid-Journey, and it looks identical. And I wish I could pull up the images here. But
yeah, we'll put it in the B-roll. We'll put it in the B-roll.
Yeah, I can send it. I send it for the B-roll. It was just like, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. So then I realized that throughout the last 6 weeks in Bali, I basically had frame for frame images from the entire Mid-Journey vision video that I had made, and it was all in Bali.
Wow.
And so I threw an event in Bali while I was there this past July, but it was only one night. And it was super cool. Like the videos of it are on my YouTube. I think you saw that video.
Yeah.
It was a really cool, like put together experience. We had like 8 a.m. branded coconuts and really amazing people, and brought in some Indonesian culture and such. And the vibes were amazing. But leaving that, I was like, man, like these 1-day experiences just aren't it. Like this, what I'm really, if I'm facing the truth here, like what I'm really looking to build is like a fully immersive, something more like a film festival.
Wow.
And the reason I say film festival is because 2 of my other really big inspirations are my aunt and uncle, who are the founders of the Napa Valley Film Festival.
Wow.
And they ran it for 7 years. They founded it. They're super intelligent. Yale, Stanford, like some of the smartest people in my life. And I've always been inspired by them and what they had built. And I realized around the end of the Bali experience that what I was actually meant to do with this was to build an experience on that level, like fully immersive, not a film festival, but not a retreat, like a fully immersive way of living where they're actually fly-in monks, and we fly in like 100 entrepreneurs, and like we rent out an entire like landscape, and we kind of create this thing. I think long term, it is actually a society. Like it is actually a network.
Yeah.
So like where people live. But for the time being, I was like, I think we can start out as like a week experience. And so I put out this message to my audience, and we got the first 10 people to sign up and pay for the tickets. And we just a few days ago actually sent in the wire to confirm this collection of villas that matches exactly the vision as well. And it's like 22 3 to 5 bedroom villas, 3 to maybe 6 or 7 bedroom villas on a 200-foot cliff in Bali in October 18th to I think the 23rd, 2026. And the last day is like this end celebration festival. So that's what I'm focusing on now. It's going to be hopefully something the world hasn't really seen before. And I'm pretty fired up about it.
Yeah, it fires me up just hearing you talk about it, because this is why you and I are even doing this conversation in this podcast in the first place, because our missions, our values, our stories, everything is such an alignment with like the purpose and the source, because I believe the future of everything, especially in info or selling online and what we've come from, the world we've come from, is not the course content. It's not the coaching. It's the community. Yeah, it's the community. Yeah. It's the collaboration, and it's the experience you can create, which is like
in the real world.
Exactly. Because as AI continues to make everybody more glued to their phone screen and just scrolling and frying their brain with dopamine, people, I believe, that are like you and me, that are like minded and they're aware of this and they're tapped into the higher source, they're going to want to be a part of a community, a citadel, a society, a network
Mm,
of people just like them who are in nature tapped closer to the source and being able to connect in and connect out as they need to create online but to live offline. And so what you're giving them is that 1 week experience in Bali to do that. Which, yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna be there. Like, this point, like, I've never been to Bali. You told me about this in Medellin. You're like, if you like Medellin, you like this, like, you're gonna love Bali. And I tell my wife that every single day because we're actually moving to Medellin next month. I told you that because we want to be closer to nature. We want to be
mm,
outside of the hustle and bustle. And I also want to build a community in Medellin because I think there's a huge opportunity there. But it's so aligned with what I'm doing with the mastermind as well. And I would encourage anybody, man, who hears that vision from Arlen, follow him on Instagram, DM him the keyword that he has about joining that experience, get the info about it and like lock it in. Cause like I know that if the right people are there, including me and you, it's going to be a life-changing experience for everybody and something that you can't get anywhere online artificially. Straight up.
yeah, yeah. I really appreciate that that CTA on my behalf. And yeah, man, it's we've had some really cool people sign up for this thing too. We just had I don't know if you know Liam Otley. He's like a
Oh
huge,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, he just signed up. Another guy named Arthur, I'm actually met in Medellin. I told you he ended up signing up. This
Yeah.
guy's like amazing, dude. He's like, he runs two companies. One of them is called partialtracker.com. They work with NASA and they work with Graystar. And like, I don't know how he got these clients. And then he also has a company called Atomic Growth, which is like a clipping agency. They have 4,000 clippers, but they do clipping for like VC companies like Brex.
Wow.
So he's like, the level of like interesting creative guys that are going to be at this experience. I like to curate the community in a way that it's like multidisciplinary polymath. So there will be like, there's a guy named Pablo who's a breathwork facilitator and a music
Mm,
producer who's going to be there. There's
nice.
that, like, it's just like so multi-dimensional, you know. And I'm so excited for it. And yeah, I appreciate it. Anyone who is interested and wants to be a part of it, just message me on Instagram, at Arlin, or Arlin, or go to 8amapp.com/Uluwatu, and you can just submit your application there, which villa you want to, be in. And yes, it's very exciting. How about you, man? What's up next for Brian?
Dude, yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So this past Saturday, actually, I was telling you about this in Medellin that we were going to do it. We just launched our software, actually, AdSpend AI.
Oh,
So we have the first 100, I think as of today, 101 customers have signed up in the last, 3 or 4 days, which is amazing. It's my first test or like try at ever creating a software. And basically,
is it
uh,
ai.adspend.com?
ai.adspend.com. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
this is clean.
So the entire premise of this is every AI tool works, right? There's marketers that use ChatGPT, there's marketers that use Claude, there's marketers that use, Grok. All of these tools work, but the problem is all of these tools are like duct taped together to get you the right copy that sounds exactly like you at the right output consistently. And that was the biggest issue I ran into. This also goes back to my agency and how I had a team of 16 and I looked and I saw I can automate everything. So I was investing, just to be very clear, like for those of you who don't know, dude, the whole reason this came about is because I was paying $20,000 a month in contractors to like copywriters and things and people to write copy for my clients and like fulfill on my agency's services. And then what I realized was I could pay that same 20K 1 month to an AI operator to develop a system to automate all of this and not have to have anyone helping in fulfillment. And so that was one project. Then it became another project. Then I said, hey, dude, you need to come in full time. That was Max, who you met in Medellin. And so now he's my full-time operator and AI integrator. And we built this software that we only used internally for the last like 6 months on clients' ads, but it was getting crazy results. I
Yeah,
was a
and
team of
better
four
and better, I
people.
bet, with the
Yeah,
new
better and
models.
better because We trained it on all of the last 7 years of all of our SOPs, our proven ads, our frameworks, our case studies, our data. And finally, we just released it to the public on Saturday. And basically, it's one simple, easy to use AI tool that can create all your ads, your VSLs, your emails, your text messages, your sequences, your landing page copy, and your YouTube long form content and your short form content in one platform that's trained on your voice, and it'll only get better. And more importantly, it's by marketers for marketers. So whether you sell
Yeah,
courses, coaching, masterminds, info product services, you sell anything online, like it's
dude,
the all in one.
this is it, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
You know why this is it? Because you have a lot of like VC backed YC style companies that are trying to do something like this. But I know it firsthand. They're not internet marketers, dude.
Exactly.
We're
Yeah.
built different, bro. Like we're like, I mean, they have stuff we don't have for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but internet marketers, because we don't have tens of millions of dollars in venture money to
Startup.
build
Yeah.
to like just spend on whatever, we have to get super creative. And that's
Yep.
why you've had so much success with me as a client, with all of your other clients. And like to know that like Brian's proven ad scripts
Yes.
and VSL scripts and landing page scripts went into the curation of this copy, you know it's the best. There's
Yeah.
like the it's just you're not going to be able to get better.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's literally backed by $100 million worth of ad spend over the last 7 years, which is what I can literally like put into the software we've built on the back end. So like they don't have that, and it's also not for the masses. It's for the marketers. It's for
Yeah,
the internet. It's for the digital internet
for the
marketers.
hustlers.
That's yeah. So it's like we're just solving a problem that everybody has, because you know how it is, dude. You've used all these tools, and then guess what, dude? One of your friends that's tapped into AI says, oh, this new tool came out, and then you go buy a subscription of that. But then guess
Yeah,
what? You have to retrain it on all of your things again, which is a time-consuming thing. It's like, no, this will continue to be just like Bitcoin, in my opinion. We're trying to make it very anti-fragile. So like
yeah,
the problems it has today will only make it stronger, because the more stronger it gets, the more better your voice is, the better your copy is, the better your output is. And so the next phase is going to be AI ad generation, video generation as well, and image generation. But it ties in perfectly to my mastermind too, because they're going to use the software, they're going to get the value, they're going to get better results, and then they're going to need the community and the collaboration. And that's where the in-person events and all that comes in too. So yeah, that's me, man. I truly believe
dude,
in.
I love this. Let me
Thanks,
get on
man.
the board.
Yeah, dude.
Let me get on the cap table. This is awesome. I'm
I
looking at
would.
the landing page.
Yeah, I would
Wow,
love you to be involved somehow, man. I mean, I could definitely. I think a lot of your clients and members would probably love it too. They do great
for
things.
sure,
So
dude.
yeah, man.
And it's definitely well priced. I mean, I paid for some, yeah, I paid for a bunch of different things that attempted. I was looking for something like this, man. I was actually telling a Silicon Valley engineer who's in my 8am World community to build
Yeah.
this. I was like, I need, like, I want to be able to take the transcript from this podcast with Brian
Yes. Yeah.
and put it into a software and get my, everything. I want to email. I want
Yes.
a bunch of emails. I want tweets. I want all of that.
Dude. Yeah, it's you should see the output. You can literally drag and drop YouTube videos, PDFs, anything into it, and then it just like and you can type in a prompt as well. I literally typed in, for example, like Brian Moncada, founder of adspend.com. You can see on the demo, it's on the website. I just click enhance with AI, and the AI is so good, dude, that we trained and put the data behind it. It'll literally spit out everything you need in your voice exactly, probably better than you could ever say it. It was like crazy when I saw it. I was like, this is exactly me. It's
Yeah,
nuts.
and it's going to get better and better and
Yeah.
better. Super
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, man. Well, look,
All
dude,
you
I don't
need
want to
is
keep you
all
any
you need
longer
is
than you need to. I know
I was
we
gonna say
both
all you
got,
need is a pay with Bitcoin option.
I know that's coming soon. I told Max already about that, because I would love to get paid in Bitcoin immediately. But dude, I won't only keep you any longer. I know we both got amazing relationship partners to come back to. And dude, anything else that you would like to say for those watching? Any last words?
Yeah, seek ye the kingdom of God first. That's it. Whatever that, however you take that. That's it. I mean, that's the bedrock of all this other stuff we've been talking about. Is like, as cool as Bitcoin is, as cool as like this, Uluwatu experience is, as cool as this software is, like all of this only came, I'm sure, these
Mhm.
realizations, these downloads came from that bedrock of,
Yeah.
the dark place. What a beautiful podcast this was, man. Like the journey we went on from like, it just was, I love it. I love it.
Best podcast I've ever done. I believe my audience is going to also agree. And again, for those of you watching, go watch the Medellin vlog on my channel if you haven't seen it and see Arlin performing. Then go to Arlin's channel immediately, watch the 2 hour set, follow him on Instagram, DM him about the Uluwatu and Bali experience, and we'll both see you there if you decide to attend. And yeah, seek God first in everything that you do, and all else will be added unto you. Arlin, thank you so much, my friend. We got to do this again, maybe in a year's time in Bali together, in person potentially.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Dude, cheers, bro.